Today's sponsor is Audible.com, who has more than 180,000 audiobooks and spoken word audio products. Get a free audiobook of your choice at audibletrial.com/CA Telecast. This month we're recommending The Disaster Artist, My Life Inside the Room, the greatest bad movie ever made, by Greg Sestero and Tom Bissell.
Greetings, fellow travelers. My name is Nick Murphy.
And my name is Satchel Drakes.
And welcome to the Cinephilia Anonymous Telecast. We're going to take you on an interstellar adventure through the darkest corners of your mind to unlock your hidden passion
for cinema. We back, guys.
We're back. Yeah.
I'm doing my "We're back" dance. You can't see it.
I don't have a dance. I don't have a lot of mobility in my setup right here. Just kind of like wiggling. We're back. Sorry for that kind of brief hiatus. Things got like a little hectic.
We were doing things, making things.
Yeah.
We had, letting life happen.
Yeah, we had like kind of a big project we had to work on, and we had to devote all of my free time to get out. But yeah, so now we're past it. Now we want to get back on the reg with this.
Dude. What have you been busy with?
So we did this kind of we've been calling it a pilot. It's a pilot for Disney XD. It was kind of this big project where they gave us this funding and this budget to make like a pitch basically for it could be like a web show, it could be a TV show. It's really up to Disney XD, but they gave us this opportunity and we couldn't kind of pass it up. So we kind of had to put a bunch of things on hold to devote all hands on deck for.
And it was so good.
Oh, thanks, man!
Check it out.
Yeah, it's called Spooky Squad. Bigfoot's Big Feet. So it's kind of like it's kind of like Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Easily one of my favorite Dominic Muschietti performances.
Oh, dude, yeah,
Dom,
he's fantastic in it. My God, he's so good. Dom and Paul wrote the majority of it, and it's so funny. There's like some of like my favorite jokes are in it. I mean, the title itself, like I came up with that Bigfoot's Big Feet. I was like, that's the title, guys. We got to go with that.
That was so great. I was designing the title slide for that, and it didn't land with me just yet. And as I'm kind of like photoshopping together, I'm like, oh.
It just worked. It's perfect. And yeah, thank you so much for that, Satchel. You're always super great and like a clutch, man. Because Paul and I were like fiddling with it, and we're like, man, we always call it the Satchel nuclear strike. We're like, all right, well, we could totally just kind of like like tomahawk missile this thing and just it'll be passable, but we need like the airstrike. We need the airstrike, the Satchel airstrike that just nukes it and knocks it out of the park.
Oh, that means a lot, man. You're making me blush. Get out of here.
Seriously, man. How you been, man? What have you been up to?
Dude, I've been good, man. Working on YouTube stuff.
Good.
Just getting back into the rhythm of case studies and all that. The past couple of months, I guess I had been just resting for the most part and like trying different creative things.
Yeah, and you were on the West Coast for a bit?
Yeah, I was on the West Coast for a bit working on a very special project that people will know the full details of.
I know a little bit about it, and I'm ridiculously excited for it.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. Oh, man.
All I can say this is because I know Gerard said this publicly on Twitter, so I can say this much. It involves Gerard, the Khalil-shinist, the completionist. It involves Nate Wants to Battle, who is an amazing musician on many regards.
Oh, nice.
And it also involves Alex Fasciani and Jake Kaufman, who is the composer of the Double Dragon and DuckTales remake video game soundtracks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's fantastic. I had no idea that part of it. That's great.
Yeah, dude.
Man.
And they're all great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys are planning, like, release stuff. Can we expect something at maybe like a convention or something, or
we can
total
expect
online?
so many things.
I like the way you operate. That's great. Well, cool, man. So I know on our last episode we said we were going to do It Follows. What we're going to do is we're going to push that episode back because we talked about doing it with Paul, and we just couldn't work out the timing. So we'll do It Follows next time, and then you had another movie you wanted to do after that, right, Satchel?
Yes, I did. And I will announce that next time.
Oh, keep us in suspense.
Yes.
I love it.
But we will be joined by somebody very special that is very much involved in the film world and probably has a lot of really interesting things to say. I think it'll make for a very good conversation.
That's awesome.
As I think podcasting with Paul will make for a really good conversation.
Yeah, dude. Back-to-back guests. I love it. It'll be nice.
Dude.
Well, cool. Let's dive in. So the movie we picked this week, obviously, you saw from the title, is Ex Machina. I'll give you just a brief rundown. It came out this year, 2015. It was directed by Alex Garland, who wrote 28 Days Later, Sunshine, Dread, and I believe this is his first feature film directorial debut. Yeah, super
how good was Dread?
Yeah, dude, Dread's like my favorite.
No complaints.
That's like
even from the seething corners of the internet, it was
it's
almost
just
unanimously positive.
What's really nice about Dread is that so many movies, I think we talked about this before, is like so many movies, like the stakes are, oh my god, the world is going to come to an end, and Dread is just like, nah, this block is just going to fall apart.
Right. Yeah,
the stakes are a little bit more like manageable in that movie, which is nice. And like Sunshine is like one of my favorite movies. Such a great movie. Cool.
Heck yeah.
I love that guy. So Satchel, give us like a quick rundown of kind of brief synopsis of the story to fill in people who might not have seen it.
Okay, sure. So Ex Machina is let's call it, we could call it full-on sci-fi, but there's something, I don't know if sci-fi is changing or if there's something incredibly approachable about this film that I found even like my non-sci-fi friends were really interested in it. I don't know if it's just getting more humanistic or maybe less like, I couldn't tell you, but we're talking about a sci-fi or like pseudo sci-fi film about artificial intelligence. And what makes it really interesting is it's probably the most humanistic take on artificial intelligence in a sense that the victim, the subject, in this case is humanity, even more so than a robot or an android. Usually the subject is the android and trying to understand it and trying to get around like what it's able to comprehend. And like if you think about what was that Will Smith film? iRobot, where the culmination of iRobot, very much like a lot of artificial intelligence films, is sort of like, well, robots arrive at this particular conclusion about humanity and its hypocrisy, and they try to fix it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Meanwhile, on this end, the viewer is more of the subject than the robot, and or the onlooker is more of the subject, and it's really only 4 characters. Nathan,
very like,
Caleb, Ava, and Kimiko, I think her name is. Two androids and 2 humans, and Caleb is selected to user test Nathan's AI in the form of what's called a Turing test. And a Turing test is essentially a conversation between a human and an AI, or like a relationship between a human and an AI that's considered a success when the human is unable to discern whether the AI is human or not.
Right, and that's kind of like the whole kind of crux of the story. And you think that's kind of the setup. We quickly find that that's not... The basic Turing test that were kind of like brought to, that Nathan kind of explains to us what it is kind of turned up on its head, because we find out that the android is an android right off the bat. Like there's no kind of there's no twist to like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And that's usually the whole point of the Turing test.
Yeah,
it's really interesting, really really good twist in that sense.
And I guess in a lot of ways, this is almost like a sliver cut out of Blade Runner and just extrapolated into its own separate thing.
It really is just like the Voight-Comp test. Like the whole movie is the Voight-Comp test, and It's great, and like you said, there's only 4 characters in this movie. There's basically one location.
It's like a one really long bottle episode or something.
Yeah, it's like this could be like a play. It could be like adapted into a play and just like unfold.
Definitely
on a stage almost. Really interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting that you brought up like the Turing test and it is such a like a spin on that. Because I feel like, and the movie opens up, the movie just like starts. Can we talk about that real quick? Like the movie,
it
just like
right.
jumps right in. Like we're immediately exposed to
Caleb,
and he's there, he's working, he starts getting these notifications. There's no need for like his backstory, the world backstory, like
right.
everything. He just throws you in there, and then the audience is expected to kind of like pick up the pieces and figure it out, and you really do figure it out as you go along. It just works. Like, so he's working at like a startup, I guess. Like you're like, okay, well,
it's so hard to tell. You're in this like, you're like, is this the future, or is this like? And it's hard to pinpoint it because they're like, there's some tech that looks like it doesn't exist yet, and then there's like a 720p webcam, and you're like, okay, that's recent or past. Like, there's no, and I love it because it's like it's not important, so it's not even like
and that's
it's not
like
even overstated.
That's really my favorite part of this movie is that Caleb gets this opportunity to meet Nathan, who's this kind of
he's essentially Eric Schmidt,
of
Google, only less. Nah, they're both demented, but less creepy, a little bit more approachable.
Nathan comes off very, very. Very approachable is a good word. Very like
his first word is dude.
Yeah. But like I love his demeanor about it, and the film does such a good. It just does away with the need for like that chalkboard scene, like the exposition. Like Nathan immediately, Caleb is like launching it. Well, I think it's this, and this, and I think the way she processes this, and he's like, look, hey, shut up,
chill out. Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to hear any of that. I just want to know your feelings on it. He's like because I brought you here to have a discussion on it and not like a dissertation. Like it's,
right. He's incredibly relaxed, self-satisfied, self-reliant, intelligent, and
and I think like a lot of sci-fi movies are moving toward that. Like there's a scene in Looper where Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are sitting there and they start talking about time travel, and Bruce Willis is like, hey, look, we could talk about time travel all day, and we would just be sitting at this diner. So let's just move past it and accept that this is how it is. And I think we're getting to that point in movies where we don't need to explain everything works. We just understand. We don't need to figure out how Ava works or what her core is made out of or what her like processor. It's just
it's a good retraining works to the audience. Like, hey, audience, just suspense of disbelief. Try it out.
Yeah. Ava works because Ava works. That's it. That's all we need to like figure out, right?
Yeah.
And it was interesting that you're saying it's weird to categorize this movie like it is science fiction, but not like science fiction that we've kind of been expected to believe. Like there's no like robot.
The fiction
fight.
part actually exists.
Yeah.
The science doesn't have to justify itself in every instance.
Yeah, and like I really like science fiction stuff that where the science part of it takes like a backseat. Like that's just the future is just the setting and not the subject matter. And a lot of movies they just get like hung up on that part of it. But this is just like this is the drama. This is the story that's unfolding. This just happens to be the setting. Like the future could be replaced with like Detroit. We're having a film set in Detroit.
Why'd you pick that
it's just a
city?
place. It's just I just picked it just because it's just the place.
Okay, fine.
But like, I'm just trying to think of like, I was like, what's like?
Well, if you're thinking
place?
Dystopian, I guess.
I was like thinking of RoboCop in my head, and I was like, yeah, RoboCop.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. But it's cool that like science fiction is kind of in this area now where they just, I think they're treating the audience like a little bit smarter.
Mm-hmm.
That the audience is just picks up on things and is able to just like, we don't need to know how, like, I know Nathan kind of like runs down like the doors and stuff and how they work and stuff, but that's it.
Right.
You just need
that was critical for the storyline.
For the story,
that
exactly,
needed to be painstakingly clear because it played into the switch.
Yeah, and I think it says something about like definitely where our kind of like society is. That we are just getting more and more comfortable with technology. That these things, that hand holding doesn't need to happen. That the audience.
That's also true. Yeah. Reality has become science fiction.
Yeah, I would imagine that at some point they'd be like, send me a text message on my phone. It just gets like abbreviated to like, text me that. Yeah, send me that. It just gets.
Or they just put the little overlay on it, and you just know what it's doing.
Man, I love that. That was like my favorite part of House of Cards.
Me too.
Like,
yeah, when I saw that, I was like, that's how we should be doing it.
Yeah, we totally made it.
That's cool. So, I mean, let's talk about when, like, for lack of a better word, shit goes down. I mean, 20 minutes in, everything gets super eerie. Like, Ava is roaming free outside of her quarters and shuts down the main generator.
Yeah.
And we learn a lot of things about her. First of all, we learn that she's incredibly curious. That she may or may not have particular abilities that Nathan doesn't know about. And through the first kind of interview, we get a sense that she's very self-aware. She draws abstractions on her own. She's interested in learning more about Caleb rather than, like, playing around with his conversation. She's completely capable of flipping the table on him. She's aware of social cues, tactics, and patterns. She has a built-in lie detector. Like, there are just so many things that would make the average man incredibly anxious.
Right. And, like, he does a good job of, like, navigating that water and, like, trying to stay on top, like, trying to stay, like...
Yeah.
Agreed. Interviewer instead of, like, the interviewee.
Yeah.
In that sense, and that's like I really like that dynamic. Like when it first came up, like on the screen, like the session 1, I was kind of like, it's kind of weird. It's going to feel very like, I don't know, regimented. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this movie is just going to be kind of like, this is the first session. This is what happens in the second one. But it kind of breaks that, kind of early on, and it doesn't, like, each session feels different and interesting, and you learn like a different kind of piece of information. Like thematically you learn things. I really like what you said about like the back and forth and kind of like the tables turning, because like it really is that, because you think that Caleb is there to interview her and to understand her, and that he's watching her, but the whole time she's really watching him. And I feel like we always like people, when you look at technology, you always assume that you know more than it and that you're the one in control of it and studying it, right? But like, I think visually what happened in this movie is that when it goes to that like webcam point of view, like immediately struck out to me that like, oh, it's studying us. Like I felt that was like a thematic kind of thing, that this technology, while we think that we're in control of it, like it's actually analyzing us, and we learn that's been Nathan's like ulterior motive all along, is that he's using this technology to understand the human condition and how to apply it and stuff.
And isn't that what true consciousness would be?
Yeah,
like it would be awareness of its own conscious and alternate consciousness and motives and things like that.
Yeah.
That answered Caleb's question about, does she know that she's playing chess as opposed to anything else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the moment that I like reached the peak of sort of like understanding just how much Ava was capable of was when they sort of went through that small montage of Nathan, all of Nathan's past inventions, like up to I forget what version she was.
Yeah,
it was awesome. It was
great.
Intense. It was emotionally, like, to see one of the past robots like break the glass and like and I mean that was great, and it had me on the edge of my seat and my chest like super tight, but also like it like instilled in my mind, like, isn't that what like the pinnacle of artificial intelligence would be? That the intelligence would be so aware that it has the same desire that any human desires, which is to be free. Because the same thing that every single iteration of robot that Nathan really said was, why can't you just set me free?
Yeah,
why can't I leave?
Stuck here?
Why am I stuck inside of here?
Yeah,
like,
so much so that one is like clawing its way out and like deteriorating its own arms to try and get out. Oh my god, it was horrific.
And it's really interesting to see that we like that is what that is what the pinnacle of intelligence might be.
Well, and it was interesting too, because like Nathan continues, he like berates this helper robot all the time, and kind of he treats them as inanimate things, but once you put a face on it, it's hard. And they have that discussion, like, it's hard to empathize with a gray box,
Right.
I wonder if that was like a Portal,
sure
nod.
reference.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm curious to know what your thoughts were on that conversation where, Caleb and Nathan are talking, and like I'm completely taken aback by Ava's romantic capacity, and like, actually before that, when Caleb and Ava started talking, and Ava's kind of, playing on him a little bit and getting dressed up all cute, and like I'm looking at Caleb like, dude, you see her circuitry, right? Like, why are you blushing right now? It was interesting that, and what was interesting was that Caleb sort of pinned sexuality as a diversion tactic first over just like this desire for pleasure. I hadn't considered that sexual attraction in any capacity plays into how living things relate to each other. Like, did you understand like what I sort of followed? Like, what were sort of your thoughts on?
I think that's kind of what he was saying, is that there's always, like, when you boil it down, there is like this sexual thing, like no matter what, even if it's like, being intimidated by like another guy or something like that still boils down to like a primordial sexual feling kind of thing, where you're like, oh, that guy's the alpha male, so I need to like back down to him. He's the guy. He's the pack herd who gets like first dibs. I don't know. That's how caveman thought, and now we evolved past that. But like, I mean, I think that was like an interesting conversation, because like Nathan just like addresses that right off the bat. He's just like, yeah, you totally could. We built it for that, and to understand, to not, like, I understand this point, that to not, like, so much of that is hardwired into the human condition, like, to not put that desire and put that that part of it would just be silly, because you wouldn't be making a human, you'd be making like a cheap copy of it. And I think that's his whole point, was he wanted to make like a perfect version of that, enough to like pass this test and stuff. Like it was really interesting for her then, especially at the end when she's like putting on that human skin. I thought that was like, for her to dress up in these clothes and then to put that human skin on, it was really great for her character. Like, she is the villain of the movie, like, in some regard. You know what I mean? That she, despite anyone else's kind of wants, desires, or motives, she put hers first and was very like survivalistic about it. Like, I was kind of like watching Caleb, struggle to get out, and I was like, oh, she should help him. And I was like, oh, she doesn't care about him. She's not
right.
She has nothing. She has no loyalty to him. It doesn't make. That's not what a robot would do. That's what a human would do. A human would like spare him, but she doesn't need. It's
interesting that there's deceit but not compassion.
Yeah.
I wonder where that comes from.
I don't know. Like, I never really felt that she, even at the end when all of that's unfolding, I never felt that she was like cold-blooded in that sense. That she was just like ruthless. It just, everything felt kind of like calculated and purposeful. Like, I guess to some extension, Caleb is part of the problem. Like, he works for Nathan, and early on says that Nathan is his friend, and I mean, he helps her get out, and I guess you could see it that way, but I don't know how she would like process that whole feeling, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. There's still some there are a lot of interesting things in there to like chew on. Side note, were there any notes on where this film was shot? Because the mountains out there and all the Arctic slopes and stuff were beautiful.
I want to say we had the director in at the station I work in. I think.
Shut up, dude.
Yeah, he was really interesting, because like he talked about the film for 5 minutes. He's like, I'm kind of like tired of talking about this movie. I'm really proud of it. He's like, but I just don't want to talk about it. Can we talk about something else? And they talked about like we talked about like video games with him, and he talked about like that's like the new medium he wants to like work in. He's like, I like film. It's really interesting.
Here.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
That's awesome.
I feel like, I want to say Iceland. It just seems like that's where he would shoot.
Right?
Kind of stuff. Like between like Oblivion and some, any kind of, I think The Martian was shot in parts in Iceland.
Okay. How was that? Did you check that out?
The Martian? Yeah, Martian's great. A lot of fun.
All right, I might check that out.
Yeah, super interesting. Yeah, like, can we talk about how like awesome his like pad was?
His pad? I know, dude. Okay, yeah,
right?
like the architecture, the architectural design in that whole thing was amazing. All the architectural design and all the consumer electronics that weren't like consumerish thingies that were like rebranded, like all that stuff was really good. The key card, like having that sort of embossing on it, and like everything about it was just like.
It was so good. Yeah, the set decoration was like so phenomenal and like so well thought out. Like there's a couple shots early on of like there's this one shot where it's when Caleb first comes and Nathan is just like making this drink and he's kind of got his back, and then we finally turns around, we get like this dead on shot of like him and his appliances. Like I was like half tempted to like pause and like check out like what kind of things are in there.
I know, like I saw the pots and the bowls and all this other stuff. I was like, dude, that looks pretty good. I kind of want that.
Like, yeah, exactly.
It was like there's like this cool cross between like organic and like machined, you know?
Yeah, and which like, you know, there's obviously like the mountainside and the building being carved out of the mountainside. Like how good of a you know, like a metaphor for what's happening in this movie is that like we have all this technological stuff creeping into nature,
humanity.
You know what I mean? Really interesting. Like really, really well done. There was a couple other parts that I was curious to talk to you about. Like at the end when she's walking out of Nathan's room, he has this painting, and I was watching it with Rebecca, who's my wife. She's like super into art. I was like, what painting is that? Because they talk about
Pollock,
this Jackson Pollock painting earlier. So I was like, it's got to be like a famous painting. And she was like, it's Klimt. And I was like, oh, cool. So I was like, let me like figure out. I was like, do you know what it's called? And like immediately, because she's like an art superstar, she knew like exactly what it was and stuff. So like,
that's great.
I like looked it up, and it's by Klimt. It's a portrait of Ludwig Wittgenstein's sister, who was a philosopher, right?
Okay.
Who was like, some of his philosophy is like referenced in the film. Like, way to go, man! That's
is this with the gown, right? That big dress,
the white dress. Yeah, like that's awesome. Like that's such a hidden little like it's not even like an Easter egg because it's like so blatant, but it's you have to like know to look for that. And I was just like, I was flabbergasted like that much thought and like process was like put into something that you know most people are probably gonna like miss out on. And then further like down like a Wikipedia hole, right? Wittgenstein's notebook was called The Blue Book, which was the name of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so nuts, man. Really, really well thought out stuff, man.
That is incredible.
Amazing. There was this other really, really this part that I was really proud that I picked up on. The song that it was cool that Caleb mentions that he's in Depeche Mode. That's pretty sweet. Right?
Yeah.
But then the song that he's listening to when he's kind of like getting ready in the shower is the song called Enola Gay by OMD. It's this like 80s band.
Yeah.
And Enola Gay was like the plane that dropped the nuclear bomb, right? So like I wonder if like that's purposeful in the sense that like that happening, like that bomb and that event kind of like changed our world and kind of brought us into like the nuclear age.
Right.
And I wonder if like purposely putting that in there that Nathan is on the verge of getting this AI to work right is like Ava's like
it's on the
bomb.
cusp of like technological innovation.
Like this new age, man. It was just like I don't know if that's like reaching too far or if like it's just like, hey, I just really like that song.
There's a lot of intentionality in this film, and frankly, I mean, I'd attribute all of that to intentionality just because of how focused it is, and it's not all over the place, and there aren't a whole bunch of sets. Like they just focused on one really intricate, amazing laboratory, you know?
Yeah.
But
it's just smart. It's just everything about this movie like is just really smart and like really crafty.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you talked about Blade Runner too, because that's such a great part, because it really is like a void contest, and he gives her like that part where Ava has to imagine this scenario, you know, which is like a key component of like the void contest. Really interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of sound, like the sound design on this thing was astounding. Like,
yeah, oh my god.
In many regards, I always win. I feel like in bottle-like films like these, I could be wrong, but in a lot of cases, I feel like in bottle-like films like these, it's almost like sound design needs to work harder or differently in order to facilitate tension or suspense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it can feel very much like, and there's a lot of reasons why I feel like there was sort of like this equilibrium throughout the entire like film from. With regards to like emotional heights and things like that, like any pause or moment of deception or realization had strong audio that I felt like helped make me feel like really anxious or get really involved. And what's interesting is that like the tracks that play during Nathan's murder and Caleb's betrayal, besides being the best tracks that were playing, like they're incredibly haunting. And I think that's the work of Ben Salisbury and Jeff Barrow. I think they did these two really good tracks. Can't remember the name of them right now. But like, no part in this film is really bombastic or loud outside of that dance sequence where they're kind of like breaking it down or whatever.
Right.
And it makes me think a lot about the fact that all of the stuff that's going on in this film, as innovative and as scary and as intense as it is, it's all kind of happening in this secluded place that only a helicopter can get to.
Yeah.
That no one could. I don't know. There was just this like really interesting parallel there that because I think about like Nathan's death is so pensive and calculated, and even Caleb's emotional height when he's like betrayed, like. It's completely muted. Like he's yelling and going crazy, but you're just hearing music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's completely like devoid of passion. Like it, and it makes complete sense. Like why would a robot kind of like, arc down with like a knife? It would just be like a very calculated kind of just, like when he backs into it, like I don't know if he backs into it or if it's like a purposeful stab, but when Ava stabs him, it's just very much just like as if she was like pointing out something on like on a wall, she's like meow right there, and he's just
gone. I had so many thoughts on that, like that. So that was easily my favorite part of the film, and a lot of it is just because I'm really curious to know your thoughts on this as well. Like the film introduces Nathan, practicing combat on a punching bag, and the film, like he spends the duration of the movie working on his physique and showing his body's capacity to handle alcohol, you know?
Yeah.
And I felt like Nathan's death was like commentary on the fragility of human life because he was killed so effortlessly.
Yeah.
I was convinced that, like, for me, like, especially when you think about robots and like smart ones that are self-aware, like, I was convinced that at any point Ava was going to like come at him with like an Aeon Flux, like Van Damme split kick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like some spider kind of
right.
Like
but
move.
She doesn't.
Yeah.
When she runs at him, I'm like, oh snap! She's about to go down, but not even. Like they get into a small tussle that at no point like does Nathan feel intimidated by, and it doesn't lead to anything. But like after all of that, you know what I mean? After him breaking her arm and all that, like he more or less just backs up into a knife and that's it. He's done.
He's just overpowered.
Shut down.
I wonder. Yeah, he really did. Yeah, exactly. Like I wonder if it's like a commentary of like our fragility, or if it's just like maybe it's like a commentary on like that culture, like that Silicon Valley kind of culture, in the sense that like that these guys are. I mean, there's that point where Caleb says that thing. He says that line, and then Nathan repeats it to him, but like misquoted and like misinterpreted that he's a god. He's like, "You're not a man, you're a god." And like Nathan, like hears what he wants to hear, and I guess has been like hearing this kind of stuff like his whole life, and kind of he has that omnipotent creator mentality where you just hear what you want to hear and nobody says no to you because you have all this power. And it's just like this,
which is reinforced
act.
In the beginning of the film when he's like, "Hey, chill out. I know you're excited to see me." But,
yeah, right. Yeah, like, hey, like I'm very bored. Can we just get past that phase and just go to like what I brought you here for?
Yeah,
which is both like a great way to just kind of like move the plot along, but also like a great commentary on like. It's just a great character moment for him that just gives him this like
self-satisfied.
This weird douchey but like likability. It's so
he is likable. He's likable. Yeah,
man. Oscar Isaac is he? I think he might be like the greatest actor like to come out in like the past like 3, 4, 5 years. Like, I mean, I feel like he came out of nowhere, but like, you know, he was in like that Coen Brothers movie. Dude's in Star Wars, man. This guy is like blowing up. He's just good in everything I see him in. It's phenomenal. He's just so, I don't know. He's great, man. He's really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that like, I wonder if that's just like, for how much he's like built up, like, oh man, he's the smartest guy in the world, and he's like bulking up and like working out and stuff like that. He just gets, I mean, not to be like chauvinistic about it, but he gets like overpowered by like 2 girls. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I wonder if that was like a commentary on it. Like, here he is trying to craft, you know, the perfect human, and maybe to some sense like the perfect woman.
Right.
And
and let's be real, like the way in which he treated, well, it was, I couldn't help but not notice that, like, the way in which he sort of treated these robots that were like beautiful and subservient and submissive and stuff. Like, he was sort of, he was and was not a misogynist in that kind of way. So it was interesting seeing the tables turn in that way in the end.
Yeah,
like to see them sort of plot together like that.
And I think as a moviegoer, you're expecting, like you were saying, like a grand finale, you know, and here it comes, the giant robot battle, and it just happens like as if, you know, we were cutting a piece of meat, and it's just.
And even him, he didn't have like this this picture perfect-esque like Oscar performance death, like, you know, Cuba Gooding Jr. or something. Like he was just like, man, shit is real right now, and he's like pale, and then he just sits down, and then that's the end of it. We don't even see his last breath, frankly.
Yeah, no,
it's
just happens.
It's
like
such a background thing. Yeah,
it's so crazy. Yeah, the movie completely shifts to just be about Ava and her journey at that point. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
How about those end credits, man? Did you watch them?
Wait a minute, I didn't.
Just like stylistically, they just like come up and like.
Wait, I just saw it. I mean, I saw like these little like moving like dots and lines and stuff.
They were just
those were dope.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, this is really cool. It's almost like it's a animated version of the things that she was drawing that eventually like overpopulate the screen and become like full white. I just found that I was like, oh man, this is really cool. It seems like a lot of like something like you would do like like visual wise. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that was cool. That was really cool to watch.
Yeah. I liked. There was this moment, and I was trying to figure out his intentions when Caleb is in the mirror, and I interpreted it as like he just saw the other robot kind of like peel her skin off and peel her skin away, and I interpreted it as he has this moment where he's trying to question if he is a robot, and this whole Turing test is about him, which I was a very like underplayed kind of moment that I was like, wow, they could have expanded the entire plot on that. It's just kind of like a little moment that kind of like goes away. Like it's not really like addressed, and I didn't know if it was like real, like a dream, a kind of like a
it was real. It was real because Nathan questioned him about it later. Like he was questioning his mental health when Caleb was trying to get him drunk.
That's right.
But nonetheless, like so for me, it didn't land for me as a hallucination. But I was going to ask you the same question because I was like, yeah, it seemed so. This happened and they left it there, and it's kind of cool that they left it there. But I wasn't sure why he was doing that. Yeah, if he felt like, I mean, for a second, it wasn't really clear to me that I guess I missed like them sort of rattling off the bonuses of like him being like the winner of this contest, but. I was like, was he like in this lab for like months on end that like he's starting to question whether he's a human or not? Or but then I realized it's just a week. But I guess even then, like, it maybe just got to him. Yeah,
that he's starting to question like all of these things. If I guess questioning like
how it made me so queasy.
Really oh yeah, when he like stabbing into himself
because he went down the street. Oh
yeah, I didn't like that.
It was so like.
You know, something I really liked about the movie was like the camera work. Like it alternates between like these beautiful camera shots and this beautiful camera work to like these like security cam kind of feeds. And like sometimes I always find that a little jarring and like kind of weird, but like it totally works in this movie. Like about, you know, like weird voyeurism and stuff, and it just like worked for all that stuff. And I found it really interesting because a lot of the movie is spent like shooting like through glass, like shooting through two characters communicating through glass. And I was like, oh man, that's kind of like what we do already. Like when the way technology works nowadays is you're just communicating with another being through glass, and like if you've never met that person, I'm sure there'd be some question as to their if they were real or not. You know, like it's really interesting. Like on a side note, there's this BBC series called Black Mirror, which is like I
keep hearing about that. I don't know why I keep sleeping on it. I'm silly.
It's good, man. Yeah, check it out if you have some time. It's nice. There's 6-7 episodes maybe. It's real short. They're like hour long, kind of like it's an anthology series. So it's kind of like Tales from the Crypt, but about technology. And
cool.
And it's cool because I didn't get why it was called Black Mirror. And Rebecca's like, oh yeah, like your phone, it's a black mirror that you look through. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's really cool. That's nice. So one of the stories that
she just gets the Matrix,
dude. She just I married the one. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So she was. So we were watching it, and one of the episodes is has I forget how to pronounce the name. Domo Gleason, the guy who plays Caleb.
Okay.
He's in one of the episodes.
Oh, cool.
And the episode has kind of like a similar theme. He is married to this woman, and they get into a car accident, and he dies. Right, so then she hears about this service that will clone like a loved one, right? So she signs up for this service that, based on all of your electronic history, this company will compile a clone with their memories and their way of speaking and their mannerisms and stuff. So she orders one and has to like grow this new version of her husband, and it's the guy who plays Caleb. And I was like, oh man, that's really interesting that they're in kind of like this weird. In this movie, and they almost become like companion pieces. Like this movie about, what's real and what makes a person, and this short little story about like the same kind of thing. It's like, is our online presence like the same as our like consciousness, and does that constitute? And can you fool one like a loved one kind of thing?
Yeah,
really interesting like companion piece to like watch back to back maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out if you have some time.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that. I'm writing that down now. That's tight.
Nice, man. So I had a couple like just kind of like just questions about stuff. So I had this like weird stream of thought, and if it gets really weird, like I apologize. I was just like, thinking about
it. Let's get weird, man.
I was like, all right, well, maybe this is what it is, and maybe this is like a weird, I don't know, some weird Greek mythology kind of like psychology issue or something.
Or like, what Norse, like Norse lore.
Yeah, I looked on Wikipedia too. They shot in Norway for a lot of this movie.
Okay, got it.
So like when Nathan is talking about Ava, and he's like, like the sexual question that's kind of like coming up between them, right? And he says this line, and he has this kind of like line of thinking where he's like, well, you're the only other man that she's ever met, and I'm like her father, right? And that's weird. So I was like, man, if he's like the father, and that means like he's like the creator. So like, are all people who create things kind of like that? Like, are we creating this is where it gets really weird.
Go for it.
Like, are we creating things for someone else to like to fuck or to consume? You know what I mean? Like, are we just trying to create the most perfect thing so it's desirable to other people? Do you know what I mean?
Do you mean in this universe, or do you mean like creators in general?
Creators in general. Like, are we like creating and crafting a thing that's just that we hope is desirable and other people want to like be with, and like,
well, that's an interesting thing to think about.
And maybe it goes down to like the kind of like that sexual thing we were talking about, where it's like it's all kind of there, and it's all kind of like from that gut feeling, and maybe that's like where some of this comes from. I mean, I would hate to like distill like creativity to like
no, of course,
gut feeling, you know what I mean?
Of course
but like
not. that's a
could
cog of it,
extrapolate.
right? Like a cog of it is how the audience receives the thing that you're working on.
Yeah.
And I guess that conversation comes up a lot, right? Because like, at least it's something that I think about, and it's something that I'm conscious of. I think you are as well. Where oftentimes, at different events where it's like a bunch of creatives coming together, or like, even for example, like a context like where a bunch of YouTubers are coming together, oftentimes there's a lot of conversation, like whether it's just sort of like fireside chat or you're like out on the floor or whatever, conversations about what success means to other people. And like, conversations around the numbers game will come up, conversations around analytics and like views and subscribers and things like that.
Sure.
And like, I guess where I've sort of arrived at, and talking with you guys a lot, correct if I'm wrong, I feel like you guys have arrived at as well, is that when it comes to those things, there's definitely a place for like the way that the audience receives something. There are unhealthy instances where people are defined by it and find their identity in it, and that can lead down a couple of roads, either feeling incredibly distraught because you're not getting the kind of viewership you were anticipating or the kind of response you were anticipating, or being incredibly cocky because you're getting like an ungodly amount of response to the kind of thing that you're creating. And I think where I've sort of like landed like in that equilibrium is like understanding that though there might not be, and I think this might speak to the tension you're talking about, though there might not be at least for myself, a dire need or anything healthy about finding my identity in a response to the work that I create, I am still creating something and sharing it with the intentionality of it landing with people. And I do find it valuable if people understand the thing that you're putting out there. And whether it's supposed to be everybody or just a small sliver of people is up to the person who's making it. But in that regard, like, people will react to, and I react to, like, different kinds of like art, whether it's like a film or a painting or a photograph. Like, hey man, like I'll react to it like, man, I really just want to like, I really want to listen to this track in this moment, or like when I'm having a late night drive, I really want to listen to this song, or like when I was going through this, like this film helped me through whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like that kind of stuff, I guess theoretically could be like seen as like the facet of a partner, like where you're making something for someone to spend time with. Like a created thing, like an AI, I guess. You know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe not have intercourse with, but I don't know.
And maybe it's like a weird, like fatherly or motherly thing. Like when you have kids, you want them to be good, and you want them to be the best that they can be, and you want them to be better than you, a better version of yourself. Sure. So like you do all these things. But you're doing those things, I'm instilling like those thoughts and those like those values in the hopes that he's assimilated well into society and and is desirable to a mate down. And I'm basically making the best version of something for someone else to consume and to be a part of. So like it's like this weird. It took me on this weird like thought path about like creating things and turning them into
that's another interesting dimension, thinking about it with your kids. That's cool.
I mean Nathan sees himself as her father and wants her to be the best that she can be, and I was like that is really, and that is like a reoccurring thing with like robots and AI, like especially like in Blade Runner, there's like that father and the creator kind of aspect to some of those things. And I wonder if you can like just, I think you can like distill that to like any kind of creative thing where you're the father of X product or thing or, piece of art. And you want it to be the best so people can assimilate it the best that they can. It's weird. And within reason, like, I mean, let's not forget that Nathan was totally going to shut her down if she failed, and then just like Well, yeah, man.
start a new thing.
Yeah,
and that happens the same way with artists as well, where it's like, oh yeah, that thing I made a year ago, yeah, that's garbage. Watch this other thing I did.
God. Dude, yeah. I was speaking in this class recently. We had to watch some stuff that I made in college, and I was just like, oh man, I want to rework that. I'm gonna tear that down off the internet and, and totally rework that. I think anybody feels like that. You just kind of you're never really 100% with your work. You fall in love with it. You fall in and out of love with it all the time.
Yeah. That's real.
Yeah, really weird. So I had this other kind of idea about, we're like an ever-evolving species, and we're, we change from like generation to generation. What
very true. Once
worked, for our parents or our grandparents, like doesn't work for us and won't work for our kids and the generation that follows them. So like, is kind of like technology our next step in evolution? Like, are we slowly being like defined by that? I feel like with whenever a comparison to like, I don't know, they say that we're millennials, but I don't really think we qualify for that. I feel if anything, we're on like the very, very outskirts of being millennials in that sense. But like, their defining trait is always like technological. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Oh yeah,
the
technology, digital native and all the
right, exactly. So like, they're like the first generation to grow up with the internet and as like a household thing.
Yeah.
So like, is technology like our next step? Like our next evolutionary step? Like, is that the thing that will define like the next like metahuman almost? Like I'm like watching this movie and really like he's connecting with these people and is that like our next step before we get to like AI? I'm listening to Aziz Ansari put this book out recently. I'm listening to like
modern love
or modern romance.
Modern romance. Yeah.
And it's super interesting. And it's all about like how young people deal with relationships that like probably aren't the way like you and I dealt with relationships, or like when we were younger. But like we're dealing with them now. But like the way technology works into these things and works into just like the social norms is changing that part of it and changing like the procreation part of finding a mate and stuff. So it's really interesting that's like what's defining us more and more. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like as before, like you had to have some kind of like social bravery to kind of like seek out someone that you were interested in, and now it's just like, sup. Like that's the thing, that's the catalyst that starts this relationship. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I'm just watching this movie and like listening to that audiobook earlier today. It started like thinking about like what's like our next kind of step. Like, how do you think it's gonna like? How do you think we're gonna start changing? I mean, are you seeing that like with like your friends? Like, is technology kind of shaping how they deal with like relationships and stuff?
So relationships, yeah. Relationships, yes and no. At least for what I see. Like when you ask the question, like if we're defined by our technology, like my general answer is yes, because I'm thinking about, especially just thinking about all the like ingenuity that went into making those like Ava in that fictional world.
Right.
Like I'm thinking about just how much we'd have to know about ourselves and like the way that like the human anatomy works. And
sure.
So naturally my mind goes to medicine, and I think we are totally defined by technology with regards to medicine. Like, conversations about life expectancy, the kind of medication we can take, the kind of surgery that's available, the kind of modifications that we can make while we're here, the kind of ways that we can preserve life, that like, there's a lot that we speak about with a certain like flourish of luxury that would have been a completely alien or impossible thing for generations before us. And in that regard, I feel like we are defined by technology. With regards to romance, it's a really interesting thing that I've been thinking about a lot, because I'm thinking about a lot the way that like my generation in particular, how we relate to each other and like grow in friendships, from things as big as like finding someone that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, to how we communicate to like organize a hangout, and how people react to, or like dodge, or refuse to give direct answers to different things.
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? There's this. I think with that, like, technology's presented this new venue for meeting, but I think in a lot of ways we still can't get around our humanity to take full advantage of it. And what made me kind of get there was I have this coworker who I love, like, with all of my heart. Like, we were super close. She unfortunately she moved to somewhere else, like, to another job, but like, we were super tight while she was there. And she was like, your generation has it. She's incredibly nice, and she's not an ageist. She's just incredibly introspective. And she's like, your generation, like, has so many advantages in a sense that, like, it's weird that you guys can just download a Tinder app, and if you want to find someone to go out on a date on, whether it's like for long term or just to, like, have fun, you can just do that and say, hey, what's up, and then just jump into it. And, like, meanwhile, my generation, like, it was a lot different. It required a different set of social skills, and it required becoming incredibly comfortable with one another over a long period of time. And I paused right away because something didn't sound right about that. I think that what that perspective does is it makes our generation seem a lot more. And I'm speaking on behalf of a whole generation. I hate that, by the way. I hate any article. I hate any article that talks about millennials. You just mean group of people you don't understand yet, or group of people that you're not willing to meet. It's like, dude, my name's Satchel. Like, I'm completely different than Joseph. You know what I mean? Like, there's no. So I actually really hate that. But if we're going to talk about, when I say generation, like, for the people listening, like, think about group of people that are subjected to the same like era of technology, television shows, like cultural expectations, et cetera, et cetera. That's what that means, not who we are. So, I think what that assumes of this generation is that we're a lot more content and I don't know what the word is, complicit, or like appreciative than we actually are. Like, it, and the reason I say that is because I think that Tinder, just like Netflix, there's this Netflix queue effect. I don't know if you ever read, like, someone's dissertation on the Netflix queue effect. It ran some circulations a couple of years ago, but it's essentially the idea that, like, when Netflix first came out, a bunch of people got the account. They're like, "This is amazing." There was a lot of amazing content. It seemed like a dream. It seemed like a dream come true. And people would fill up their Netflix queue with all the stuff that they wanted to watch, but no one would actually get their way through the Netflix queue that they would make.
Dude,
like,
there's stuff in my queue right now that's been there since I, like, signed up that I've just never watched.
And exactly, and part of that is that there is so much variety and options available that that it almost creates, or it gets rid of the need of a certain level of appreciation that you might have in a generation that's so much more used to scarcity. In other words, not the internet. That when you log onto something like Tinder or any kind of relationship app, you have so many options of so many different potential people with things that you like, that you might end up being completely paralyzed by it, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you are missing out on something else. You know what I mean?
And it's so funny you're talking about that, because, like, this Aziz Ansari book, like, he talks about a lot of that stuff about, like, this generation is kind of like blindsided by, like, choice paralysis. Like, there's so much out there that, like, eventually, like, inaction and, like, apathy just kind of takes over. For a lot of people. And he talks about, like, on Tinder, that, like, he did this one, like, case study that he did where this guy was like, "Oh man, I was really active on, like, what was the other, OkCupid." He's like, I would put these, like, really thoughtful messages and just get, like, no return on it. And he's like, eventually I just started being, like, really crude about my messages and just, like, putting a whole bunch out there in the hopes of getting, like, one or two, like, catches and stuff. So, like, it is kind of like that. There's so much out there, and, like, the internet has, like, connected so many people, and there's so much available out there that you don't wind up taking advantage of it. There's something to be said about, like, curators of content. Like, I feel like, and the content part of it, like, I think applies, just not only to media, but also to, like, and what we're talking about now with like dating and stuff, you almost need like a friend to be like, oh yeah, I know that girl, she's cool, you know what I mean, to like to filter out like
and that's where when I hear about things like coffee meets bagel, I'm like, okay, like that is cool. Have you heard of that?
No, what is that?
So it's like Tinder, only it only hooks you up with people who, I keep forgetting. Dude, when I was growing up, hookup meant hang out, like, casually. But it means something else now.
I don't even know how to, like hookup was like, oh, man, they're, like, hooking up.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't that. For me, hookup just meant hang out. And, like, but now I see, But, like,
man, I was talking to this girl the other day. She's like, oh, it's just this guy that she's, like, talking to. And I was like, oh, okay. They're, like, texting each other and calling each other. And she's like, no, they're, like, talking. And I was like, oh, so they're like hooking up. And she's like, well, I don't know. And I was like, look, like,
it is black or white, girl.
Yeah, dude. We need
figure yourself out, or else you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah,
you better be able to DTR for yourself.
You just gotta like define those relationships. Otherwise, you're just gonna be in this nebulous void. You just gotta be like, look, we're a thing or we're not a thing.
Yeah.
Like, are they a thing or are they not a thing? Because if it's casual, then that's casual.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Thank you. That was so real. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like, if Rebecca and I got divorced for some reason, which is like super implausible, or like something else, like, and I had to kind of just like restart. Like, I wouldn't even know where to begin. You know what I mean? I'm sure it'd be fine, but like, it's such a different world, man. It's crazy out there. That sounds so old. Oh my god! Holy shit! But yeah, it just is. There's so many ways to do it. And there's so many like options out there that it's. You're right. You get scared that you're making the wrong choice, so you wind up making no choices.
It's funny. So for me, like, and by no means do I like think there's like a righteous or unrighteous vehicle for like finding romance. Totally. Like for me, I'm not interested in using any of those things.
Right.
And there's this thing that just because it's just, I don't know, it's not my vibe. Like, I just don't like. I want to like meet a person, like,
you want to connect,
like
man. And that's
like how we did, like how we
exactly. And that's ultimately what with all of this stuff. Like, all of this stuff can help you, and all of this stuff can like set it all up. But ultimately, you got to meet face to face. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, if you want to get to the final goal, right? There's
these preliminary things. It makes me think about. So, what I was saying that was really
sorry,
no, you're totally good. What I was saying was that Coffee Meets Bagel is like, it's different in a sense that, and if I were to like switch over, it'd be the only thing that I'd use. It like it only pairs you with people who are friends of your friends on Facebook. Okay. So they always give you, and they tell you who it is so that you have like a reference to talk with. And I think that that's kind of helpful because
that is helpful. I don't know. Because then you're like, hey, I have a person on my thing.
And it's also kind of organic.
Can you tell me
still?
About them?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That's like a localized version of like the halls of high school.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where you're like, oh man, I really like I like Jenny, but is she cool? You think she likes me? Maybe you can like do some work and like let me know if it's like worth investigating. That's cool. That makes a little more sense, because otherwise it just seems like strangers. It almost feels like a scam. Like, it feels like I feel like with Tinder and some like the online stuff, it just.
And the way it's advertised is so skeevy. Like, it just seems like a meat market, and like,
yeah, exactly. It feels like you're part of, you're buying into the scam, but then you're also scamming other people in the sense that like this guy in this audiobook was talking about. He's like, I would just put so many feelers out there, and I'm like, that just sounds like really creepy. It sounds like he has this like Nigerian prince kind of like phishing email that he's just putting out there in the hopes of like duping somebody.
Yeah, and it can't be like healthy for yourself. Like, even if you mean well, you know what I mean? Like, doing that kind of it harkens back to like how many everyone has that guy that they know, and it's becoming increasingly there's more of that guy where like you want to go out and you want to do something, and like you're like, hey man, do you want to go to this concert or do this thing? And they're just like, we'll see. Maybe. I don't know. And that night can be completely open, but there's this fear that if something else can happen, or you go to that, and then someone goes like, "Oh, dude, you got to come to this thing," and it's like, "Oh no!" Like, and there's no, and it ends up, it's like that, but people, and
with people in relationships, exactly. It's like, man, it's turning into like a generation of like not chance takers, they're
not chance.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, man, and it's weird that technology is kind of like shaping us that way, and it's weird, man. It's a weird journey. This stuff is like taking us on,
Yeah. How did we get here?
I was just thinking that. I was like, how did we get off? Oh, from like.
Oh yeah, we're talking about those. It's the second question about like. Things like that.
Yeah. The technology and moving us into like a new evolutionary chain of events, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess the summary, at least for me, is like it's definitely a new it's definitely presented new tools, but we're still us.
Yeah, and I think
we haven't evolved with the tech.
Yeah, it's new opportunities. It's like, I didn't have to like write a girl a letter. I could just call her on the phone.
Yeah.
And now I could just like text her. Now I can just, Facebook and Twitter and, do all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
but ultimately you still got to you got to talk to her,
Yeah, yeah.
You got to talk to her and be yourself and be you in person. Yeah. Man, weird stuff. So, what'd you think? Did you see this movie before? I
did. Yeah, I saw it the night of release in.
Cool.
Have you ever been to Austin? I saw it at the Alamo. It was
Alamo's awesome.
So dope, and the food was so good.
Oh my god, yeah, that was like my first time in Austin, and also like my first time being in a place where you could like drink and watch a movie. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, that part was
great.
It was
killer. Yeah, man. So good. So we're getting down to Star Wars.
I know. I'm ready, dude.
Oh man.
The first thing I did after the second trailer, I was jonesing so hard. Like I sent this long elaborate like complimenting, like loving email to you know Heidi, right? Jared's wife.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I was just like, I need you to make me a Finn costume because I'm gonna wear it.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna wear it, baby, forever. I just need one costume for the rest of my life. I will be Finn,
and that
so many years.
Dude, it's such an awesome time, man. It's like, I know people are probably getting like bombarded with Star Wars stuff, and they're kind of getting sick of it. But like, for somebody who like loves Star Wars, you can't go wrong. It's such a great time to be alive. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And we have like all of these awesome characters to like be excited about. Like, I know everyone's like, we don't know anything about them. It's like, it doesn't matter. We're going to like learn about them. We're going to like discover them. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe there's a chance that it's going to be bad, but so what? Let's go
and
around.
And this is happening again next year.
Yeah, we've done it. We've done it once before where it's terrible, and we got past that. So let's just do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But like, man, I saw this like, I was like walking around in Target, and Target has like a bunch of Star Wars stuff, and it was like right around Halloween time, and I saw this like little girl like run up, and like she saw all this Star Wars stuff, and she grabbed all this like, instead of grabbing like this like Princess Leia gear, which is like, you know, obviously like our stuff.
Yeah.
She like found like this like Rey outfit and stuff, and I was like, man, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's like these little girls have like someone awesome to look up to, and like kids can be Finn. It's awesome.
And CoverGirl.
Yeah.
The freaking CoverGirl Star Wars. I saw that. I was like, if I were a girl, I'd wear the shit out of that.
Yeah, dude, seriously, right?
It's amazing.
Man, it's like, it's gonna be so good, man. I can't wait.
Yeah,
I cannot wait. I'm getting like super jittery about it because like it's just coming up. Like I've watched like every trailer for it. I try. So at a certain point after like the last trailer that came out, the one that starts with Rey and you know like exploring that thing. That's like the last one I watch. I try to like wean myself off. Like my one friend Sam, who's like super like into Star Wars. He's like, I watched the trailer once and that's it. And then after that, I don't want to learn anymore. I was like, okay, no, I super get it, man. So he didn't even watch this one, the one I'm talking about.
Okay, cool.
He's like, I don't want to learn anymore. I just want to experience it. I was like, I get it. I was like, I think I'm in that mindset as well, but I keep seeing all this TV stuff and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, dude.
Man, it's like, it's so exciting. And like, so Rebecca and I are going to take Desmond at some point, and it'll be like his first movie. It's going to be awesome, man. Such a good time.
Nick, here's a question. Like, how can we... Is there a tasteful way to cover this here? Or is this not for here yet?
Oh,
like when we see it. Like...
Oh, yeah,
I know we're like doing in-house stuff here, but like,
that'd be awesome. Okay, yeah. Why don't we do that? Why don't we like do like a post?
Yeah, if there's a
thing?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when are you're gonna go when it comes out, right?
Yeah. I'm going when it comes out.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe that weekend.
We'll figure something out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's record a special one. Why not, man? Like, so what?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We're in charge. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be like an onslaught of similar type things,
but it's like for the people who saw it, which why are you not seeing it opening night?
Right? You have to.
Why are you waiting
at this point? You have to.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, I think that'd be interesting. It'd be interesting, like breakdown to see, like, we're a movie podcast. We're talking about this. Let's do it.
Yeah, cool.
I love it. All right, so tune in next time. Next time we're gonna do. We'll do It Follows, and then Star Wars will be out, and we'll do Star Wars, and we'll go from there.
Tight.
Cool.
Dude, this was a nice episode. There's some girth.
Yeah,
some girth to this.
Time. Dude, always a good time. Yeah, we've been recording for a while. So ultimately, would you recommend Ex Machina to
without a doubt, this was
viewers?
My film of the year.
Yeah, I agree, man. It was one of the best films I saw. It's like one of my favorite sci-fi movies at this point because it just... It just works on so many levels. It doesn't worry. You don't have to worry about like lasers, guns, or anything like that. That's the setting that it works in. And it's really interesting. It's a very like thought-provoking film. I really enjoyed it the first time I saw it, and on subsequent viewing, it like holds up really well.
Hell yeah,
nice, man. Well, we will catch you guys later when we continue taking you on our interstellar adventure through the darkest corners of your mind to unlock your hidden passion for cinema.
So follow us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can follow us on Telecast, and I'm at Hey Nick Murphy on Twitter,
and I'm at Satchel Drakes.
Yeah,
2 L's.
2 L's. That's important.
And we'll be doing It Follows next. Follow us into It Follows, and follow us.
Hey, that's good. And like tweet at us, guys, and let us know what you think of our comeback. Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, and just let us know your feels. Just be like, hey, man.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning.
Let's talk about stuff.
And I'll be like, hey, good morning.
Yeah, exactly. Let's hang out on the internet and develop relationships using technology.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
Peace, people.
The Cinephilia Anonymous Telecast is produced by Satchel Drakes and Nick Murphy. Music by Mark Junker. You can hear more of his music at junker.ca. That's junker.ca. You can follow the Telecast on Twitter at CA Telecast, subscribe on YouTube at CA Telecast, subscribe on iTunes, and check out our website, catelecast.com.